The planet Varelia was silent, except for the sharp whistle of the wind through jagged cliffs. Its sky burned a strange purple, and dust swirled in the air like tiny stars. Captain Elias stood on the edge of a rocky plateau, scanning the horizon with careful eyes. He had traveled far from human space, exploring a world few had ever seen. This was not a planet for tourists. Danger hid in every shadow, waiting for the careless or the foolish. Elias tightened his grip on his pulse rifle. He had heard rumors, from traders and smugglers, stories of warriors who served no master but themselves, elite fighters feared across the galaxy, and he was about to meet one of them. From the ridge above, a figure appeared. She moved with perfect control, her body like a weapon finely tuned for combat. Armor covered her from head to toe, but it was clear she was strong, faster, and more dangerous than any human soldier. Her eyes shone like molten silver behind her helmet, studying him without fear. Elias did not lower his weapon, but he did not aim either. He knew that a fight with her could end before it began, yet he also knew that victory in this encounter could change everything. "You are far from home, human," the figure said, her voice firm and clear. It was not cruel, but it carried authority, a tone that demanded respect. "And you are far from anyone who can control you," Elias replied, keeping his voice steady. "I am not here to fight unless I must. But I need to know who you are." She lowered her visor slightly. "I am Kalara. I serve no one. My oath binds me only to the one who can defeat me in combat. That is the law of my people." Elias's mind raced. He had heard of this kind of oath before. Among certain warrior species, a defeat in honorable combat meant total loyalty. The trick was not necessarily to overpower them. It was to win in a way that earned respect. Elias stepped forward carefully, raising his hands in a gesture of peace. "Then let us test each other, not with violence, but with skill and wit. If I succeed, you will owe me your oath. If I fail, I will leave in peace." Kalara tilted her head, studying him. Her armor shifted slightly as if sensing his movements, preparing for any sudden attack. "Do you understand what you propose? Defeat me, and you bind my will. Many have tried. All have failed." Elias smiled faintly. "I do understand. That is why I have come prepared." The air between them tensed. The wind picked up, carrying dust and small stones around their feet. Then, in a sudden movement, Kalara charged. She was a blur, moving, faster than the eye could follow. Elias dodged quickly, rolling across the rough ground, his mind calculating every step. He noticed her pattern, the way she always left a slight opening after a spin or lunge. Timing was everything. He used it. With a quick feint and a small energy pulse from his rifle, he forced her to stumble slightly. Not enough to harm her, but enough to test her reflexes. Kalara froze. A flicker of surprise crossed her face behind the visor. Elias did not press further. Instead, he lowered his rifle and stood tall. "Impressive," she said. "Few have ever anticipated my moves. Few have ever made me hesitate." "That is enough for now," Elias said. "You can see. I respect your strength. But strength alone does not win everything. Strategy, patience, and understanding can be stronger." Kalara studied him, her silver eyes sharp. "You are not like the others," she said. "Others fight for glory, for reward, for nothing but pride. You think differently." "I fight for survival and for what I believe is right," Elias said. "If you join me, we could survive and maybe achieve more than just victory in battle." For the first time, Kalara stepped closer, examining him without hostility. She seemed to consider his words carefully. Finally, she nodded. "Then I shall swear my oath," she said. "I will obey only you, Captain Elias, from this moment onward." Elias felt a mix of awe and caution. A warrior of her caliber, now bound by an oath to a human, was rare, almost unheard of. Yet he knew that loyalty earned was stronger than any chain. "Very well," he said. "We begin together then." The planet's wind continued to swirl around them, as if celebrating the new alliance. Kaelara's presence was powerful, but Elias knew that together, their combined skills could face dangers far beyond this world. As they walked down the plateau toward the dark valleys below, Elias explained their plan. Kaelara listened carefully, nodding. She did not speak much, but every action she took showed readiness and respect. Night fell quickly on Virelia. The purple sky deepened, and strange, glowing creatures appeared in the distance. Elias and Kaelara set up a temporary camp, their small fire flickering against the alien darkness. "You are different," Kaelara said quietly, as they shared a simple meal. "Humans are weak, but you are clever. You survive where others fail. You earn loyalty, not by fear but by trust." Elias smiled. "Humans can be weak, yes, but we also adapt. We learn, and sometimes we can inspire loyalty in the most unlikely allies, even the strongest of warriors." Kaelara studied the stars above, her expression thoughtful. "Then I will follow you, human, not for fear, not for reward, but because your strength lies not just in your body, but in your mind." Elias felt a surge of hope. This was the beginning of a partnership that could change not just their lives, but the fate of many worlds. The wind of Virelia carried them into the unknown. One human and one sworn warrior, walking together under the alien stars, ready to face whatever dangers awaited. And so, the oath was made, and the journey had begun. Captain Elias packed their supplies while Kaelara stood silently, observing the horizon. Her movements were precise, controlled, every action measured. Elias had seen warriors before, but none as disciplined as her. "We should move carefully," Elias said, checking the scanner on his wrist. "The terrain is unstable and local patrols might still be nearby." Kaelara nodded once. "I can detect threats before they see us. You only need to trust your instincts." Elias smiled. He had learned that she was not only powerful, but observant. Together they were more than a human and a warrior. They were a team. As they descended into the valley, the ground shook slightly beneath them. Rocks tumbled down slopes, revealing strange creatures that slithered quickly out of sight. Elias took a step back, scanning for danger, while Kaelara's hand rested on her weapon. "These creatures are not hostile. At least not yet," she said. "But they will react if we provoke them." Elias nodded. "Then we walk quietly, stay aware, and keep moving." The valley stretched for miles, filled with sharp rocks and dense alien flora. Every step was a test of balance and patience. Elias was impressed by Kaelara's agility. She moved almost silently, her armor absorbing the sound of her steps. It was clear why she had earned a reputation as one of the most feared warriors in the galaxy. After hours of careful movement, they reached a small clearing. The scanner picked up signs of other life, signs of a settlement nearby. Elias studied the data carefully. "This is interesting. The settlement seems abandoned. But there are recent tracks." Kaelara crouched and examined the ground. "They are cautious, not normal travelers. They move like a small military unit, perhaps scouts or mercenaries." Elias considered their options. "We need information. We can't just avoid them forever, but we must be smart. I don't want to fight unless we have to have one." Kaelara tilted her head. "Then I will follow your lead. We strike only if necessary." Together, they approached the settlement cautiously. Old buildings stood in disrepair, vines climbing the walls. The air was heavy with the scent of damp earth and metallic residue. Kaelara scanned every shadow, every corner, her eyes narrowing as she detected movement. Suddenly, a small group of alien scouts appeared, armed but unarmed with malice. They froze when they saw Kaelara. Their eyes widened. None had expected a warrior of her size and reputation to appear. Elias stepped forward, holding his hands out. "We mean no harm," he said. "We are explorers. We only wish to pass and learn. We have no desire to fight unless provoked." Kaelara remained silent, standing slightly behind him. Her presence alone was enough to intimidate the aliens. The tension was thick. After a long moment, one of the aliens stepped forward. You are the one they speak of, he said slowly. The human who commands Kaylara? Elias nodded. I am Captain Elias. She is Kaylara, my ally. We seek knowledge, not conflict. The alien hesitated, then relaxed slightly. Then perhaps you may enter our settlement, but beware. Not all welcome outsiders. Elias exchanged a glance with Kaylara. She simply nodded, trusting his judgment. Together, they walked into the settlement. Inside, the ruins were quiet, yet signs of life were everywhere. Small fires recently extinguished, food supplies left, untouched. It was clear the settlement had been occupied recently. An elder among the aliens approached. I am Varric. We are survivors of raids. Others seek to control us. We live cautiously. Elias listened carefully. You are safe for now. We can help you, but we need to understand your situation. Varric studied Kaylara. You follow him? Kaylara inclined her head. I am bound by oath, but I have chosen to follow him, not out of fear, but because his mind is strong. Together we can face challenges that alone we cannot overcome. Varric's eyes widened. I have heard of humans. Clever, resilient, and you, warrior, obeying a human willingly? It is rare. Elias stepped forward. Loyalty is not about force. It is about respect. Kaylara follows because she respects me, and I respect her. Together, we make each other stronger. Varric nodded slowly. Then you may stroll outside as day. The sun barely rose over Varelia's jagged mountains when Captain Elias and Kaylara set out from the settlement. The valley behind them was quiet, but Elias could feel tension in the air. Raiders were still near. Their scouts had spotted signs of movement, silent, organized, and dangerous. Kaylara moved ahead, her senses alert. Something is coming, she said in her calm, measured voice. Not all threats are visible yet. We must be ready. Elias nodded, checking the scanner on his wrist. We can't run forever. We need to take control of the situation before it finds us. Hours passed as they carefully navigated rocky cliffs and winding paths. The terrain was unforgiving, filled with crevices and sudden drops. Every step required attention. Elias relied on Kaylara to scout ahead, but he noticed she began observing more than just threats. She was watching him, noticing his decisions, learning his patterns. Suddenly a shadow moved against the rocks. A squad of raiders had spotted them. The alien soldiers were armed with advanced energy weapons, their armor reflecting the harsh sunlight. Elias froze for a moment. They were outnumbered, but he had Kaylara. Kaylara's hand rested lightly on her weapon, ready to strike. We cannot outrun them, she said. But we can use the terrain to our advantage, trust me. Elias nodded. Lead the way. Kaylara leapt from a ledge with effortless grace, landing silently behind a cluster of jagged rocks. Elias followed, keeping low. Using the natural cover, they approached the raiders from behind. Elias whispered a plan. Kaylara, you distract them. I will disable their weapons. Timing is critical. Kaylara's eyes narrowed. Understood. With a sudden burst of speed, she charged forward, her movements a blur. The raiders turned in surprise, firing weapons wildly. But Kaylara was already behind their front line, knocking them off balance with precise strikes. Elias activated a small device, sending pulses that disabled the raiders' energy weapons. Temporarily, chaos erupted. The raiders, though skilled, were unprepared for the combination of Kaylara's strength and Elias's clever tactics. Within moments, the first wave was subdued without serious injury. Elias helped some of the stunned aliens to their feet, ensuring they were unharmed. Kaylara stood beside him, breathing steadily. They are strong, but not clever enough to anticipate strategy. Elias smiled. Strength is important, but thinking ahead makes the difference. After the skirmish, they continued their journey. Elias wondered about the motives of the raiders. Who were they working for? Why were they attacking settlements? Kaylara had her suspicions but remained quiet, letting him lead the questioning. As evening approached, they came across a hidden village deep in a canyon. Unlike the previous settlement, this one was fully inhabited. Aliens of various shapes and sizes lived here, but they were cautious, watching from behind walls and rooftops. Varric's voice echoed in Elias's memory. Not all welcome outsiders. He could see the truth in it now. The villagers were wary, afraid of outsiders bringing danger. But Elias believed in diplomacy and trust, something humans were capable of in ways others often underestimated. Kaylara stepped forward, her presence commanding attention. We mean no harm, she said. We are travelers seeking knowledge and allies. I follow him because I respect his mind. We offer our help, not conflict. A hush fell over the village. Slowly, the elder stepped forward. His expression was cautious but curious. I am Talon, he said. We have heard of the human who commands Kaylara. If your intentions are true, perhaps you may help us. We are under threat, and our people fear what is coming. Elias studied Talon carefully. Tell me everything. We can help, but only if we understand the danger fully. Talon explained that a larger force had been enslaving warriors across Virelia. They sought skilled fighters to control and use as weapons. Many villages had fallen, but this one remained hidden. Talon's people had knowledge of the terrain, but they lacked the means to defend themselves effectively. Elias turned to Kaylara. This is where we can make a difference. Not through raw strength alone, but through strategy, planning, and unity. Kaylara's silver eyes glimmered with understanding. Then we fight smart. We protect them. We give hope. Over the next days, Elias and Kaylara worked with the villagers. They set up defensive positions, taught basic tactics, and planned ambushes in case of an attack. Kaylara trained some of the stronger villagers in combat techniques, but always under Elias's guidance. He emphasized thinking and adaptability, not brute force. Elias was impressed by Kaylara's dedication. She was more than a warrior. She was a teacher, a guide, and a protector. The villagers began to trust them, inspired by the human and the sworn warrior working together. One evening, as they watched the twin moons rise over the canyon, Kaylara spoke quietly. You lead differently from others I have known. You do not demand loyalty. You inspire it. This is remarkable. Elias smiled. Humans survive because we adapt. We learn. And sometimes we can unite others without force. Loyalty is earned, not taken. Kaylara considered his words, the silver of her eyes reflecting the moons. Then I will continue to follow, not only by oath, but because I choose to. Your mind is as strong as your resolve. Elias felt a deep sense of satisfaction. Together they were more than allies. They were symbols of hope in a world filled with fear and oppression. The raiders would come, that was certain. But Elias knew that with Kaylara at his side and with the villagers' growing trust, they could face any challenge. As night settled over the canyon, the wind whispered through the cliffs. The shadows of rebellion were growing, but Elias and Kaylara stood ready. The human spirit combined with the loyalty of a warrior like Kaylara could turn fear into courage, weakness into strength. The journey was far from over, but already, the galaxy was beginning to see the power of their alliance, one built on respect, trust, and the cleverness of a human who refused to be underestimated. And so, under alien stars and the watchful eyes of a sworn warrior, Captain Elias prepared for the battles yet to come, knowing that humanity's ingenuity and courage could light a spark even in the darkest of worlds. The sun had barely risen over the jagged cliffs of Virelia when the alarm rang through the hidden village. Smoke drifted from the edge of the canyon, and the ground trembled under the approach of many feet. Raiders had found them. Captain Elias quickly assessed the situation. They're coming from the north, he said, pointing to the scanner. Too many to fight head-on. We need traps and ambushes. Kaylara's silver eyes scanned the horizon. We can hold them off, but we must use the terrain. Every cliff, every crevice is a weapon if we think carefully. Elias nodded. Together they directed the villagers to prepare defenses. Rocks were rolled into choke points, trenches dug, and small explosive devices hidden along likely paths. Kalara moved swiftly among the villagers, teaching them how to stay hidden, how to strike when needed, and how to protect the weak. Hours passed, and tension grew. Elias could see fear and determination mixing in the villagers' eyes. He turned to Kalara. "Are you ready for this?" Kalara's expression was calm, unyielding. "I have been ready since we met. My oath binds me, but my choice drives me. I fight because it is the right thing to do." The first wave of raiders appeared at the canyon's mouth, their weapons gleaming in the sunlight. They moved quickly, confident of victory. But Elias had planned carefully. "Now!" he shouted. Kalara leapt forward, intercepting the first raider. Her movements were a blur, precise and controlled. Elias activated the traps, sending boulders and energy pulses toward the advancing enemies. The raiders faltered, surprised by the clever defenses. The battle raged for hours. Kalara was a whirlwind of strength and skill, taking down multiple attackers at once while Elias coordinated the villagers' efforts. He used ingenuity rather than brute force, finding weak points in the enemy formation and redirecting the raiders into traps. Despite their efforts, the raiders were relentless. Elias noticed a group attempting to flank the village from a hidden path. He shouted a warning to Kalara, who immediately moved to intercept them. She engaged the raiders, holding them off long enough for Elias to redirect a small squad of villagers to reinforce the position. As the sun dipped toward the horizon, the raiders began to retreat, unable to overcome the combined defenses and strategy of the human and warrior. The village had survived, but barely. Smoke and dust hung in the air, and the villagers looked exhausted yet alive. Kalara approached Elias, her armor scratched but unbroken. "You did well," she said. "Your planning saved lives. Strength alone would not have been enough." Elias smiled, wiping sweat from his brow. "And your loyalty made all the difference. I could not have done this without you." Kalara's eyes met his. "Loyalty is more than following orders. It is knowing when to act and choosing to protect those who cannot protect themselves. That is why I follow you, not because of an oath alone, but because your mind and heart are worthy of respect." Elias felt a surge of pride and hope. Kalara's words confirmed what he had always believed. Humans could inspire courage and loyalty in others, even in the darkest circumstances. That night, as the villagers tended to their wounded and repaired their homes, Elias and Kalara stood on a cliff overlooking the valley. The stars of Virelia shone above, bright and clear. "We've won this battle," Elias said softly. "But the war is not over. The raiders will and their forces are larger than we know." The sky above Virelia was painted with streaks of orange and violet as the sun rose over the jagged mountains. Captain Elias and Kalara stood on a cliff overlooking the canyon, their eyes scanning the horizon. The raiders had retreated, but Elias knew it was only temporary. Their enemies were clever, relentless, and well-organized. "We can't stay hidden forever," Elias said. "They will regroup, gather more forces, and return stronger. We need to take the fight to them." Kalara nodded, her silver eyes calm and focused. "Agreed. But rushing blindly will cost lives. Strategy is our weapon, not brute strength alone." Elias smiled. "Exactly. That's the human edge." The first step was to build alliances. Using the trust they had earned in the hidden village, Elias sent envoys to neighboring settlements. Kalara accompanied him, her presence alone inspiring confidence. Word spread quickly of the human who commanded a warrior of unmatched skill. Villages that had been terrified of raiders began to hope. One evening they reached a settlement perched on the edge of a cliff overlooking a canyon. The villagers were wary, armed but cautious. Elias stepped forward. "We come in peace," he said. "But we offer more than peace, we offer unity. Together we can resist the raiders and protect your people." Kalara stood silently behind him, radiating strength and authority. The villagers' eyes widened, recognizing her from the stories they had heard. Whispers ran through the crowd. A human commanding a sworn warrior was almost unheard of. The elder of the settlement, a tall, thin alien named Merrick, stepped forward. "We have heard of your victories. But how can one human and one warrior protect so many?" Elias met Merrick's gaze. "It is not one human or one warrior alone. It is strategy, preparation, and courage. And when others see hope, they find strength they did not know they had. That is the human edge." Merrick studied him carefully, then nodded. "If what you say is true, we will follow your plan." Over the next days, Elias and Kaylara worked tirelessly. Villagers were trained in defensive tactics, basic weapon handling, and teamwork. Kaylara demonstrated combat techniques, while Elias taught strategy, observation, and how to use the terrain to their advantage. Slowly, fear began to give way to confidence. Kaylara watched Elias carefully. "You inspire them not with strength, but with hope. That is unusual among humans I have observed." Elias chuckled. "Sometimes brains matter more than brawn, and sometimes courage is contagious." Their first major test came sooner than expected. Scouts reported a raider fleet moving toward the settlements. It was larger than anything Elias had predicted, with heavily armed ships and ground forces. Elias assessed the situation. "We cannot confront them head-on. We need diversion, traps, and surprise. Kaylara, your speed and strength will be the key. I will coordinate the villagers and the terrain." Kaylara nodded. "Then let us turn their confidence into confusion. Let them see that strength without strategy is meaningless." When the raiders arrived, they were met with unexpected resistance. Villagers, hidden and prepared, launched precise attacks from cover. Kaylara moved like a storm, intercepting raiders who broke through, her armor reflecting sunlight as she struck with calculated power. Elias coordinated with the villagers, guiding them to exploit weaknesses in the raiders' formation. Every trap, every feint, and every careful move weakened the enemy's confidence. The raiders had expected easy conquest, but instead found a force they could not predict. One raider commander, frustrated and angry, attempted to flank the village with a small strike team. Kaylara intercepted them with perfect timing. Elias, observing from a ridge, directed villagers to cut off escape routes. Within moments, the strike team was captured, unharmed but defeated. Kaylara turned to Elias. "Your mind guided us. We are stronger because of it." Elias smiled. "And your loyalty and skill made it possible. We work as one, and together we are more than any enemy expects." By nightfall, the raiders had retreated once more. Their forces were shaken, demoralized by the clever defenses, the unexpected resistance, and the unyielding partnership of human and warrior. Across the settlements, hope spread like wildfire. Humans and aliens alike began to believe that unity, strategy, and courage could overcome even the most powerful foes. Kaylara and Elias stood on the cliff, watching the stars rise. "We have shown them the human edge," Elias said, "but this is only the beginning. They will return stronger than before." Kaylara's silver eyes glimmered in the moonlight. "Then we prepare again. Together, we inspire courage, and that courage is stronger than any weapon they possess." Elias nodded. "Humans are clever, resilient, and adaptable. That is why we survive and why others follow us. Strength alone is not enough. Our minds, our choices, and our will make the difference." The settlements began to communicate with one another, sharing intelligence and coordinating defenses. Kaylara trained selected warriors, teaching them how to act with precision and confidence. Elias guided strategy, showing them how to anticipate the enemy and use knowledge as a weapon. In a quiet moment, Kaylara spoke softly. "I have seen many battles and many leaders. Few inspire loyalty without fear. You do this naturally." Elias looked at her. "Humans survive because we learn, adapt, and inspire. Loyalty comes when others trust and respect your mind, not just your strength. And you, Kaylara, have shown what it means to be loyal by choice, not obligation." Kaylara inclined her head. Then I continue to follow you not only because of my oath but because your vision is just and your mind sharp. I trust your judgment and your courage." Elias felt a deep sense of pride. Together, they had turned fear into hope, weakness into strength, and loyalty into a force that even the galaxy's strongest could not ignore. The raiders would return, but Elias and Kalara had proven that humans could lead, inspire, and strategize beyond expectations. Their alliance was not just about survival, it was about changing the course of events through courage, intelligence, and unity. The stars above Virelia shone like beacons of possibility. Elias and Kalara, human and warrior, stood ready for whatever challenges lay ahead, confident that the human edge, the mind, the courage, and the ability to inspire loyalty would guide them through every trial. And so, the journey continued, each day strengthening their bond and their influence, turning every challenge into an opportunity to show that humans, even in alien worlds, could lead, protect, and inspire. The twin suns of Virelia sank behind the mountains, casting long shadows across the valley. Captain Elias and Kalara stood on a cliff overlooking the settlements they had helped unite. Smoke from campfires spiraled upward, and the quiet hum of activity told them the villagers were preparing for the night. For now, peace reigned, but Elias knew it would not last forever. "The raiders will return," Elias said softly. "Stronger, smarter, more determined. But we are ready. We've done more than defend. We've built something they cannot destroy." Kalara stood beside him, her armor glinting faintly in the fading light. "They may come with power," she said, "but we have something they cannot match: unity, courage, and the trust of those who believe in us." Elias smiled. "Humans survive by using what others overlook: intelligence, strategy, and heart. That is what makes us dangerous in ways they never expect." Over the next days, the settlements coordinated more closely than ever. Villagers shared resources, built stronger defenses, and trained tirelessly. Kalara led squads in tactical drills, teaching both combat and situational awareness. Elias focused on strategy, planning for every possible approach the raiders might take. Every action was deliberate, precise, and designed to maximize the villagers' potential. One morning, scouts reported the raiders approaching with a massive force. Elias and Kalara quickly organized the settlements. Using valleys, cliffs, and natural obstacles, they created a labyrinth of defenses. Every path was a potential trap, every hiding place a surprise waiting to be revealed. When the raiders arrived, they were met with a coordinated resistance unlike anything they had expected. Villagers acted with skill and courage, using traps and clever maneuvers to slow the enemy. Kalara moved through the battlefield like a storm, intercepting key attackers and inspiring those around her. Elias observed from a ridge, directing movements with calm precision. "Push them toward the northern pass," he instructed. "Use their confidence against them." The raiders faltered. They had expected a simple conquest, but the human mind had anticipated their every move. Every trap, every ambush, and every counterattack turned their strength into weakness. Kalara fought with unmatched skill, defending the vulnerable while taking down the strongest foes. Her loyalty and trust in Elias guided her decisions, but she also made her own choices, decisions that demonstrated her respect and admiration for the human beside her. As the battle reached its peak, Elias identified the enemy commander. He was a towering alien, heavily armed and arrogant, confident in his force. Elias devised a plan that relied not on power, but on strategy. Using a series of decoys and traps, he lured the commander into a confined canyon where Kalara could engage him directly. The clash was fierce. Kalara's strength met the commander's, her speed and precision countering his brute force. Elias watched, guiding the villagers to disable the commander's reinforcements. Step by step, they outmaneuvered him. Finally, Kalara stood victorious. The commander, exhausted and defeated, lowered his weapon,